Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I'm your host, Greg Flammang, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uyeyama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Thursday, October 9th. We've got our NC State preview and prediction show lined up. We've got some injury updates from Marcus Freeman that are live right now. Those were updated about 6 minutes ago. So we'll talk about that, who's available, the matchup with Notre Dame's offense versus their defense and vice versa. And then, the predictions that'll come, and then your comments in the chat, of course. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If you like what you hear, hit that like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. Whatever it is, we are going live. Links to the podcast are in the description below. As always, the show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing, founded by Notre Dame alum Ga Wang. He is Chicago's go-to for the best custom suits, shirts, and sport coats. As Notre Dame reloads for the season, now's the time to refresh your wardrobe and add the perfect suit, sport coat, tuxedo, or casual jacket for fall. ESQ's master tailors combine next-level craftsmanship with the finest fabrics to deliver a fit that's built just for you. Now with showrooms both downtown Chicago and in Winnetka. Book your custom fitting at esqclothing.com and step into confidence with Chicago's finest. Mention ISD at your appointment and receive 10% off your entire purchase. That's esqclothing.com. Quick updates. Out for the game will be Jaden Greathouse. Out for the game will be Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith is no surprise. I don't think Jaden Greathouse is any sort of surprise either. He got hurt apparently late last week, so it's not even a week removed, right? Like, so if you're not even a week removed from a muscle injury that kept you out of the game, you're not probably practicing. So he's going to be out. Obviously, Will Pauling will step in his place. Dallas Golden will step into the place of Devontae Smith. Kicker Noah Burnett is expected back for Notre Dame's game against NC State. Marcus Freeman said he's expecting him to kick today. And then Cooper Flammang also is kind of just questionable. I don't know that we'd expect to see him in this game. It's kind of weird. I don't know what to make of that whole situation. Marcus Freeman, he's dressing and he's talking about getting him ready to play. It's not so much the injury anymore. So I think they feel like he's recovered from the injury, but there's a question of like, when do you actually roll him out? To me, it's got to be, you got to wait till after the bye, even if he's this close. I mean, it's the Achilles injury, right? It's not, you don't mess around with that. Jacob Paula says, is Greathouse a concussion? No, it's a thigh injury, muscle injury of some kind. It's whether it's his quad or what it might be, it's a soft tissue injury. So that's going to be the deal. Anything for you on the injury updates with Devontae Smith and Jaden Greathouse specifically?
Yeah, I mean, none of that is unexpected. So it's not like, and frankly, I don't think for this game it's going to make it would be huge for Notre Dame to not have those guys. Obviously they'd help, but it's not one of those things where I think it's hurt as much, or will hurt them as much. And you would prefer if obviously both those guys are back for USC, but we'll see. Like, I think it's obviously pretty up in the air. So we'll see what happens. And I think with Flammang, I think the fact that, I mean, I'm shocked but encouraged that he's close to getting back, so that's a good thing. I think it does kind of make sense from a lot of perspectives to wait until after the bye, like you said. But if, like, say in this game or USC, he's just playing short yardage blocking, I don't think that's like gonna that shouldn't stress him in a way that would, right. If he's actually like healthy and back, like, you could play like 4 plays and be fine. I think that'd be okay. But we'll see. I do think that they could use him in those situations. I think he was, it's obviously a hard thing to kind of like all of a sudden just go jump back into it. But when he's healthy, he's their best inline blocker at tight end.
Yeah, he's always looked good anytime he's been in the game. We were freshman or last year, whatever it might be. So that would be a boost to the tight end room whenever it should happen. Marcus Freeman's talking about the first of all, the move to one transfer portal window. I believe it was January. It's in mid-January, basically. During the semifinal games, And then there's a 2-week window where there's basically one portal where people can enter the portal. Basically, everyone's season is kind of over at that point, but for the 4 teams playing in the semifinals. And then there's 5 days after the championship game where the teams participating can then have players go into the portal. So they kind of have a separate portal window there that they wish to utilize. Talking about that. Also, the 5 for 5. Basically, every player gets 5 years to play 5 seasons. So there's basically no more red shirts, right? Like, you can play every game of every year for 5 years if you want, is basically how I understand it. And I believe that's what it is. To me, that's like kind of no brainer, Jamie. I mean, what do you think about that? I think that's a great thing for college football, because I think we get into this thing where there's so many players who it's like they played 5-6 games and then they get hurt or something and they burn a year, or years are burned. Like, don't worry about that. Just play as much as you want for 5 years. A lot of kids are on 5-year graduation schedules anyway, and you don't have to cram it into. Like, that's another part that I think helps. But I wanted to get your thoughts on that as well.
Well, I also think that there's a lot of guys that get hurt in their draft year, and that is something that can really hurt them. Like, I think so not that Riley Mills would have came back, but if, and he did have his 5 years because of COVID, but there have been a bunch of other guys in that same situation where, late in the year you get hurt. You're basically out for that whole next year. I mean, he still won in the 5th round, but maybe could have been a 3rd round pick. Maybe could have been whatever, right? And that's just something that I don't think is really fair to those guys. So I like that idea, especially because you're already giving it 5, and just because some guys playing 4 in this 1 year. What if there are actual injuries that force you to play a guy, 6 or 5 or whatever, or the same kind of thing where I look at a guy like Eli Reardon. He has gotten the biggest raw deal out of everyone because he's played not that much, but this is 4 years because of how it kind of like broke on the calendar for him. Yeah. He got screwed, right? And I think it would be good for Notre Dame if he could come back for a 5th year. It would have been great if, for him, probably if he could come back for a 5th year too. But obviously, that's probably not going to be an option for him, next year. But I hope it's for guys of the future. I hope so.
Well, you know what he should do? He should contact Diego Pavia's lawyer.
You know what? He should, because he could just be playing it forever. He could be doing it forever. Could be 29 years old playing for maybe he could transfer to Vandy and help that resurgence there.
Yeah.
Pavia, get out of here. Just go.
For people who didn't catch it, Jamie's a big fan of Diego Pavia and everything he's doing, and Jamie supports all.
I was a fan of him. I want to say a fan of him last year. The story, great. Get out. You played all of your eligibility.
Yeah. All right, we can move on from that. Let's talk about NC State. They're a good football team, Jamie, on offense at least. They've got some guys. I mean, Hollywood Smothers is a really good running back. Here's the thing about CJ Bailey is it's just kind of a fun time. Like, they like to chuck, like he'll throw the ball deep, and he's good. He's a good deep ball thrower, especially in the intermediate. Very similar to CJ Carr in that way. He's got a 91.5 passing grade on throws of 20+ air yards. He's completed 13 of the 23 passes he's thrown, 470 yards, 4 touchdowns. He has got an 89.7 passer rating on between intermediate throws between 10 and 19 air yards, 10.4 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks on those. It'll be 68% passer in their immediate range. Those are CJ Carr-like numbers. Hollywood Smothers is averaging just about 7 yards a carry. He's got about almost 700 yards rushing on 100 carries so far this year. I think this is a good – I don't want to say it's a good test in the sense that, like, I don't want to kind of shortchange NC State in when I make this comparison, but I feel like the USC running backs are really good, in my opinion. And I think Hollywood Smothers is really good. And so I think the 2-week kind of test for the defense is going to be real, because I think NC State's got some really good wide receivers too. And the thing I was going to question before we came on the show, and I was like, I'll just save it for the pod, is if you just look at their personnel, does NC State have better personnel than USC does on offense?
Ooh, that's a good question. No, I don't think so, because I don't think they're quite.
There's no one quite as good as Mekhi Lemon. So
no one as good as Mekhi Lemon, and although I think they have a bunch of good receivers, they're obviously deeper at receiver, much deeper at receiver. I don't think, Jacoby Lane, I would say, would be their wide receiver one, right? Mm-hmm. So, those two guys I think would be the best, receivers that they have. And I do think, but I think when you look at their personnel, I would say it's awfully close to a Louisville last year. Like, yeah, I think it's pretty appropriate. And obviously that Louisville offense was good, like very good.
And you would say, I would say Hollywood Smothers is definitely better than any of the Louisville running backs.
He is, right? But I'm just saying in totality, like if
for sure,
but like, yeah, I think Hollywood Smothers is actually probably the best back they're going to play this year. It's the best back they're facing outside of practice. Like, and they have some other good backs that they played against, but he's just one of these guys who is capable of like slipping out of tackles, breaking something at any given point. And, he's one of the best yards after contact rushers in the country. He's fifth in the Power 4 right now, 4.72 yards after contact per rush. 32 missed tackles forced is third in Power 4, third best PFF elusive rating. And this is like basically where, he was second best in Power 4 in yards after contact after Jadarian Price last year. So,
and his elusive rating is pretty much where Jeremiyah Love was last season. He's just a little bit below that, but kind of on that level.
Yeah, I think he's actually pretty similar to a Kyron Williams. I think that's kind of like how I would do it, except
probably a little more juice too.
I was going to say he's got a little bit more juice, and that's probably what makes him better. Maybe not quite as gritty, but the same kind of slipperiness.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that is it, skills as a receiver too. He's a very, very good player. And I think, one of the reasons why Virginia Tech beat them was because he didn't go off in that game. Like he averaged like 4 something yards per carry. Yeah. He didn't have any breakaway yards, which you look at all the other games, it's like you can contain him. Wake Forest, I don't know if you got a chance to watch that game, Greg, but that Wake Forest game was a game where there was like, he wasn't really getting anything. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's just, that's kind of how he can be. So they have to get in situations where they limit his carries and limit his touches, because if that's, and frankly, they got to gang tackle him as much as possible, right? Like they have to have as many, defenders there to make sure that he's on the ground as possible. And it's crazy because they're obviously very good throwing the football too. And CJ Bailey's been very good. He's made a really nice jump from his freshman year last year. And he's got a big arm. He's not afraid to make any kind of throws. He's obviously can escape and do a lot of things there too. I think he's 15th in QBR. He's one of the better quarterbacks in the ACC for sure. And probably, I think it's legitimately like a guy that if I'm thinking about, like, he's going to be an NFL player, like he's going to be an NFL player. Mm-hmm. And I would say, he's probably kind of a little bit like a Jacoby Brissett, like maybe not as thick or whatever that he is, but the same kind of like, man, this guy can really do all these things. And he can obviously be a good college quarterback, but this guy can play in the NFL too. And I would say he's got a higher ceiling than Brissett too. So he was another, obviously Brissett played for NC State back in the day. I think there's things about him that he's not quite like one thing that I noticed with him, he always drifts back when he escapes. He's not a guy who steps up as much. He's a guy who drifts back and runs out. So I think if you kind of close the pocket from the inside on him and get him to bounce back, there's going to be chances to get him on the ground. You just have to make sure you get him. And he was sacked 4 times against Virginia Tech. That was another thing, right? Where he's not sacked a lot this year, but he was sacked 4 times in that game. So they got to get him on the ground. He's someone who always is looking to kind of like keep it as long as possible to try to create something, right? And so it's going to be huge to get on him, to take away his first read as much as possible. But, he's a good player. They have, good receivers. Terrell Anderson has been a stud this year. He's a true sophomore. He's got 7 20-plus yard receptions. He's averaging 18.5 per reception this year. He had a 75-yard house call on a screenplay against Duke. His 8.4 yards after catch per reception is 15th in Power 4. 3.18 yards per route run. I mean, he's been an absolute stud for them. He's been great. And, Wesley Grimes, a guy who was at Wake, people will probably remember him a little bit because he was kind of like tail end of Hartman there. Like, he's a guy who'll go up and get it and be a vertical threat. So they have him. And then they also have a really good tight end in Justin Jolie, who's, going to be a pretty high pick in the NFL draft. What is going to be obviously key for Notre Dame is Notre Dame's got to whip them up front. And that is why Virginia Tech beat them, because Virginia Tech is not a good team. Obviously, like, they fired their coach already this year, but I think what's shocking about that game was at NC State. So it's like not something that you would kind of expect, like, oh yeah, like Virginia Tech's going to like really like dominate this game. I can't remember what the spread was, but it had been like 4 touchdowns or something like that. But it didn't happen like that. And frankly, they kind of like physically whooped them. And that was, I think, huge, right? That's why, you're going to get Smothers is going to create some stuff, but you want it to be kind of like Jeremiyah Love against Miami, where it's like, wow, that was a great run, 4 yards. Like that's what you want to have in this game.
Yeah, like a lot of like, man, that's a really impressive 5-yard run kind of thing. And just to add some context, because there's the game against Campbell where he had 4 carries for 123. Campbell's an FCS school, right? So against FBS teams, he's got 570 yards, 5.9 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns, which it's still good. Like, it's not
still
like
really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's still good, but it's not
it changes the numbers. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's not otherworldly. Like 5.9 yards a carry is not bad, but the talent is there, but they're not just completely shredding every team that we've seen this year. So, and I think it matters that you play a team, like a game like Virginia Tech is on tape, where it's like you see a team like, oh, this is how they limited him. Okay, this is something that we can.
I would say Duke too. Yeah, that really stood out for me. Yeah, because they, Manny Diaz, he's a guy who brings a blitz.
Yeah,
they killed them on screens, and they did well on screens, but he was rattled when they were on straight dropbacks, and they were confusing Bailey a lot in that way. So I think that's, there are things there that shows like, and I know they beat Virginia. That's like Virginia's only lost season. And like, I mean, Virginia's defense is trash. Most of the defense they played have been trash, to be honest.
I was just about to say that. It's like people are asking, why is the spread what it is? Notre Dame's a different caliber of opponent. That's basically what the deal is with that.
They haven't played a top 40 team yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jacob Paul says the spread is Notre Dame minus 23.5. The thing is Notre Dame's done it and performed against like Miami and Texas A&M, and NC State has not, right? Like Virginia's their best win, and it's one of those deals where it's like Virginia's not kind of in the same class as Notre Dame from a defensive point of view, and that makes it a lot harder, which isn't to say like, look, there's matchups in this game that concern me, right? Like I think Dallas, I'm high on Dallas Golden, and I want to say I'm not. I just haven't seen enough of him in coverage to have confidence. And like, I know what it's going to look like if a team is actually kind of targeting him, right? And I do, and I have seen it with Mark Zachary. So I have a little bit more confidence in Mark Zachary in that sense. It isn't to say that I've seen anything from Dallas Golden that's like vulnerable or there's a particular vulnerability there. I don't think that's true. In fact, I do think that Dallas Golden has like a lot of the markers that you want in a really good player eventually, like tackling. Like, you can't be a good nickel, period. And you can't be a good, secondary defender if you're not willing to come up and tackle, and Dallas Golden is. Like, he's checking off that box. So that's a very good thing. But we haven't seen a team target him the way that like Texas A&M targeted Carson Hobbs. And there could be a reason for that because he's been pretty solid in coverage, but I do want to see it first. And so that's kind of something that I'll be monitoring throughout the game.
I will say that like Keenan Jackson's our primary slot, and he's okay. Like, he's not like, I'm not to say they won't move guys in the slot or try to get a matchup with Golden. I'm sure they will, but like, I don't think that it's certainly not Mekhi Lemon. You know what I mean? It's not the same kind. It'll be much different next week.
Yeah. So look, we're monitoring. And let's see. Let me just check something real quick. All right. You wrote something in 6 Thoughts. This is sort of, it's kind of related to every game, but you wrote about 6 Thoughts in Notre Dame's short yardage offense and on 4th down specifically. I think you said they were 4 of 11 on 4th down this year. And last year they were 72% conversion rate. I don't know the exact numbers, but 4 of 11 is considerably less.
22 of 30.
Yeah. So 4 of 11 is considerably less than 72%. What did you kind of write about that? And then we can talk about it.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, if you're going to look at the offense, it's hard to pick something that it's like, well, yeah, they're not good at this or whatever, right? Like, but that's the one thing that and it's maybe a little bit highlighted because of what happened, at the goal line against Boise State.
Some loud failures, some really big ones.
But they've had other ones like that too, right? Yeah. They had one against Arkansas where, let's face it, they decided to throw the ball in that situation instead of running it. And I think overall, if you look at like they're 7 of 13 on 3rd and 3 yards or less this year. That was like an automatic for Notre Dame last year, right? Like, they were certainly, they're way better when it's like 3rd and long this year because of like the quarterback and how they've protected and the options they have. That has been a big difference, but they're 2 of 6 on 4th down runs on 4th and short. That's another thing that was like automatic last year. And they don't have Riley Leonard, so it's not something it's like you can't just say, well, they should just do this. Because I always see people say like, well, Minchie should just put in Minchie and do that. I think if they thought Minchie was 100% that guy, and not to say that maybe he could be, but I think if they thought that, he's built to be like that, which is hard to tell unless you actually played, because you're never going to get that look in practice of him actually running. You're not going to run quarterback power in practice with anyone. You just don't, right? Yeah. So it's hard to say that he could do it because like Leonard had like, okay, he knew when he's like, I'm going to truck a guy. He has a good feel for it. He could spin off stuff. He had this.
They had it on tape.
Yes.
At Duke. So they knew, right? It's like you said with Minchie, like.
Yeah. So I think one of the things, and there's been a lot of talk about the Wildcat, and it's like, well, they should nuke it or whatever. They don't need to nuke it. They could probably just tweak it and change some things and whatever. And it could work because obviously it does work for other teams. And essentially NC State runs essentially a Wildcat with a quarterback that they bring in, Will Wilson, who's like, their backup, one of their backup quarterbacks. He's a 230-pound freshman kid who's a really good, running rusher, 1,500 yards, as a high school senior. So that's something that they know is like, they kind of already had an idea of him and they do it. And that's been an effective thing for them. But, it's a different thing what Notre Dame's doing. And I do think that's one of those things where like Flanagan, just to be able to have 3 tight ends in the field and say, okay, well, now we're going to say, Ty Washington, you're going to be a lead blocker here, or you're going to do this instead. And because I think he's actually been pretty good at that. Like, and he could be kind of like, I'm not saying he's Tommy Tremble, but he could be Tommy Tremble-esque when in that kind of role. And when you're taking out Flammang, you're not putting on a receiver. And everybody asks, like, why do they line those receivers up tight? And I get it, because you're like, these guys aren't going to block these guys. They're just not built for that.
Right.
The only guys that you see who really, really could do it were like Jaden Thomas and like Ben Skoranek out of like Notre Dame guys. Even that was like Chase Claypool, for as big as he wasn't good at that. He can block a guy out in space and pancake him, but he's not going to do that in tight. It's just a different mentality there. And I think, but the reason why you bring those guys in tight is because everybody's on the line. There's always going to be somebody on the end of the line of scrimmage, and that guy is unblocked because you gap block it. So, everybody steps down to block the gap inside, and the guy comes off the edge. And the further that guy is off the edge, the less chance that guy has to get there to make a play before it. And that's why you bring in everybody in tight for those things rather than spread them out. Because even if you spread people out, they're still going to put somebody on the edge who's going to be unblocked, and that guy can come down quicker than the thing. So that's why they do it like that. But if you have a tight end, it's you're probably going to get that. You're going to get a better block from that tight end than you are going to get from that receiver. So that is a thing that could help. But I do think they got to look at different options there. Obviously, that was one of the things that kind of made up for some of their other stuff that they couldn't do, because they needed to drive the ball to score. They weren't as explosive, right? Especially throwing the ball. So they needed to drive the ball, which means they needed to convert on so many fourth downs. Well, this year they don't have to, so it hasn't burned them that much, but it could in that USC game, right? It could in this game, right? Like all these other situations, right? Like, I mean, it did really in the Boise State game, where you should score from there. And if they do score, it's like, it changes the flow of the game. It changes everything. And, it's not like 7-6 in the second quarter for Boise State at that time. It's a different score. So it is something they got to get fixed. And I don't know if they'll have like an answer for it, because it's not quite as easy as just saying like, I don't know. Like, I think Love is a pretty good short yardage runner. Like he's a guy, obviously, throwing that Penn State clip or whatever, right? Or the touchdown against Arkansas. Like, he's pretty good, and he's going to fight through a lot of tackles. And Price is pretty good too. He's not bad at it, but they don't have Jerome Bettis back there, and they don't have that quarterback thing with Riley Leonard. So you got to figure out a different way, just other kind of things to do it. And it might be as simple as just like, hey, you got to block better up front.
Yeah. Or just like have a better kind of plan, right?
Yeah.
Like I think, a lot of the time they're blocking down, and you got Micah Gilbert coming across and he's like kicking out and stuff. Like maybe just move straight ahead kind of thing. Like maybe just run duo out of your, your Wildcat, right? And get CJ Carr out of there. Like there's so many things that I'm sitting here listening to you talk about it, and I'm thinking to myself, well, they could like maybe like I wouldn't mind if it was like Jordan Faison, the one who, because like I feel like he could make the read. Like I think he could give the ball to Jeremiyah Love on like one of those zone read things. Obviously, he could throw a pass. There's a toughness to him that, I mean, obviously he's not very big, right? So that's a concern that you have. But like he's a tough guy, right? Like he's very slippery. He's good at making decisions with the ball. But like that's something they needed to do out in camp. Like it's clear that their decision was our short yardage is going to be out of Wildcat with the two backs. That was their decision. And, obviously, look, they had a big failure against A&M, but they also, they converted on fourth down against A&M a couple of times, right, out of the Wildcat, and Jeremiyah Love was very good on those. As far as short yardage, I don't have a problem at all with Jeremiyah Love being a short yardage guy, none %, right? So I don't think it has anything to do with the backs per se. I just think they haven't been that efficient at it for whatever reason. And I don't I can't really go into it because I don't know how they're practicing it or whatever, or what they feel like the problems are. But it's just one of those things. Like, I feel like it could be working, but it just hasn't for one reason or another.
Can you put up Tony's comment?
Which quarterback under center?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Tony says, how about put the quarterback under center? Crazy. I think if it was as simple as that, and I understand, like, I would like them to put the quarterback under center. I think most people I know think just whether the numbers say it or not, quarterback under center, they think about that in short yardage and the difference it can make. But there's certain things with it. You still have to be able to run the ball effectively and do that and move people if you're going to hand it off, right? So there's still that part of it. And then also, like, they went under center last year with Leonard a bunch of times and ran sneaks, and it was good. But if Carr's not good at it, and maybe Minchie's not good at it, like, I don't know, right? Like,
it's kind of like what I was saying. Like, how about lots of things?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Of course. Like, how about have Eli Reardon go under center and have him?
Well, they found the thing with Evans that
right. Like, how about a whole bunch of stuff? Right. I'm not saying these are bad ideas. I'm just saying, like, Notre Dame had to make a decision, and this is a decision they made. And so, like, when I look at it, it's like they could just execute better. Like you said, just block it better. They could execute it better, and they haven't, right? If they go under center and it gets stopped, it's like, well, why not hand the ball to Jeremiyah Love, right? Like CJ Carr, he's not built for that kind of thing. Like, we want them to do all the other things that didn't fail. And so, so Tony, I'm not sitting here going to tell you, no, that's a bad idea. It's not a bad idea, but they can only do one thing. They can only really commit to one kind of deal with this. And they're clearly, like you said, they're not comfortable with the quarterbacks, or they feel like the Jeremiyah Love, Jadarian Price Wildcat thing is a better option for them. That's what they feel. And I can't sit here and say as a plan, no, don't do that. Don't give the ball to Jeremiyah Love. Don't give the ball to Jadarian Price. I can't say that, right?
Yeah. Go
under center. If that's what you think is going to work, I'm not going. If they do go under center, I'm not going to be upset about it, right? There aren't many things that they could do that I would say, no, that's a bad plan. They do have to execute these things, right? And that's important.
Sorry, ICEV. This guy says, "Can Jack Larson play fullback?" Probably not. I don't think.
Well, that's another thing. Like, that's another one where it's like, hey, how about we do X?
Yeah,
sure, right? Maybe, right? We can't say.
And sometimes, and this is the thing about football, is that if they go and they just try something and it works once, then they just keep rolling with it. Like, that happens a lot. So I would say if they were going to do someone in the fullback, they'd be better off putting a linebacker. I'd put KVA or Bowen or something like that at fullback.
KVA, let's go.
Yeah. I mean, Bowen has played running back.
He has.
He has played running back, and he was a good running back, by the way. So
I think KVA did as well, if I recall. I might be wrong, but I feel like there was some running back.
Maybe like early on, I think he did. I mean, I recall him like crushing somebody on a block or something or whatever. But Bowen, I've seen crush somebody on a block live in person before. So either of those guys could do it if they really wanted to, do something like that.
Explore the space.
But I feel like some of that stuff happens when you're not like, look, that stuff doesn't happen out of desperation. That's when you're just like, we're just effing around here and we're just going to try this. So either way, like, it is something that if you're looking at everywhere, because they're like, and they've been good in the red zone. They've been good in the red zone. They've been good. Third down, they're really good on everything on offense. This is the one thing that they're like, not good. So it's going to be something. And honestly, it could have been as simple as someone brought him up earlier. Could have been as simple as Keedron Young.
Yeah.
It could have been. Unfortunately, tore his knee. So
yeah,
that's that.
Yeah. But you gotta be, that maybe they're trying new things, and you got to be open to new things. You can be open to new activities in your life. You can be open to new things as well. Let's not close off ideas to get some physical activity and get out and meet people. Meet Notre Dame fans, and you can do that with pickleball. H2 Pickleball, founded by Notre Dame alum Todd Hill. He's teaming with fellow alums Jack Gibbs and Will Howells, who's a top 10 pickleball pro, to bring Notre Dame fans to Notre Dame Pickleball Crew League. Besides football, what better way to connect and engage Notre Dame fans than through pickleball? You know what, Jamie? It's on a tangent, right? Like we talk about, the loneliness epidemic out there. People are lonely. They're spending too much time online, spending too much time on the Twitter.
Get out and play some pickleball.
Arguing. Get out and meet people, man. And the way to do that is you got common. If you go to H2 Pickleball, you have two common interests: A, pickleball; B, Notre Dame football. Like those are the types of people you want to get out and meet. It's hard to meet people, right, who are into the same things as you, and you know that as an adult. This is the way to do it. H2 Pickleball. Membership is free. Members will have access to special pickleball events and discounts. The next event will be a Will Howells Pickleball Clinic on the Friday before the Syracuse game. Members can also get discounted tickets to that game. Contact Todd at h2pickleball.com or call him at 574-339-5195 to join the league, and be sure to visit the H2 Pickleball facility in Mishawaka when you are in town. H2 Pickleball is located at 55801 Evergreen Plaza Drive in Mishawaka, Indiana. But people talking about Jaden Greathouse. At present moment, there's no reason to believe he's in the portal or thinking about going in the portal. Like he hurt his.
No, he's legitimately. He's
like
legitimately
he hurt
guys.
himself.
It's
Yeah,
not
he hurt
a thing.
himself.
So people shouldn't speculate about it. It's not fair to him or to anybody.
Yeah.
He's legitimately hurt. So just so people know that it's not a thing. If anyone's saying that he's not hurt, they're lying. Yeah,
he's injured, right? Which isn't to say, look, there's rumors about lots of players all the time, and it is what it is. But there was a comment about Matt Jeffrey from Marcus Freeman. He's a difference maker. What he does on our scout team and the look he gives our defense has been unbelievable. He's talking about Matt Jeffrey, who's a walk-on, earned a football scholarship earlier this year. So he caught a long pass from Minchie in was it the Purdue game?
Yes. Oh no,
Arkansas
game.
Yeah, beautiful pass and catch. So good job by him. Jamie, does NC State's defense is Notre Dame a good matchup for them, Jamie? NC State's defense, Notre Dame's offense?
No, it's not a good matchup, and that is really the biggest reason why.
No, it isn't.
It's not. That is the biggest reason why
the spread is
what it is, right? Yeah. Like if people think about it, because it means that NC State, which has had a couple of clunkers this year on offense, they've obviously been good and have done a lot of good stuff, but they haven't been as good as Notre Dame on offense. They're 40th in points per drive. Notre Dame is 4th, and Notre Dame has played a much harder schedule than NC State. So, and Notre Dame's defense, you can say they had the first 3 games and woof. Last 2 games, obviously quite a bit better. If Notre Dame's defense looks like the last 2 games, they will get some stops. And if NC State's defense, which hasn't played, a ton of great offenses so far, probably the best one is Virginia right now, I don't think they're going to get a lot of stops. They got to hope for some of the stuff where Notre Dame had, where last week against Boise State, where Notre Dame stopped themselves. And if you just look at it, one of the things, people remember, Tony Gibson was the coordinator for quite a few years there, and he was very good. And they had, basically top 25 defenses for 3 or 4 years in a row. And, before that too, when they had the Brad Chubbs and Ali McNeil, and they had all these dudes up front on that 2017 team, which was talented. They've had a bunch of NFL guys on defense over the years, and this year the talent is just not there in the same way. And one of the things is that it's not even that I still think they do a pretty good job of like identifying talent and developing the guys. It's not even that, even though they have a different coordinator. But like they had two really good players for them last year. Like Tamarcus Cooley was their nickel last year. He had 13 havoc plays and three interceptions. Bishop Fitzgerald, 16 havoc plays and 3 interceptions. They started LSU and USC now. So those guys who were both of the backups, who would have been the backups to them, are both out for this game. And their Mike linebacker is out for this game. And it's not to say they still have another good linebacker in Caden Fornham, but like a true freshman is going to play for them at linebacker. If Notre Dame plays heavy, they're going to have a third linebacker on the field. It's going to be a true freshman who's played 30 plays this year. And like about 20 of them were against Campbell, so it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. They're even their edges, who I think are two pretty like good players, the kid from Utah State, which I think is Sean Stone. It's like,
it's Cian or Sean or Sloan or
yeah.
Sean, it's either.
It's probably an Irish name. I probably should have it right, but I
mean, it could be. I mean, in that case, it could be Kyan. I mean,
could be. We'll just call him Stone.
Number 8.
He's a good player. He's a good player. Really, just like a total hair on fire kid. Just like brings it every snap. I like him. Sebastian Hart, Wyoming transfer, another good player, right? The other kid, Stone, is from Utah State. So they got a couple like good edges from the Mountain West. But they're not quite at the level that like they don't have like a Chubb. They don't have the Davin Van kid, right? They don't have that same level thing. Brandon Cleveland's a good player at nose tackle. Mm-hmm. But they don't have the depth. They don't have the high end talent. Caden Forum's a good player at linebackers as their starting Mike. He was the Will, now he's the Mike. Their corners have been pretty good this year, but they're all guys who just really jumped up a level because they were lower level. They had to bring in because they couldn't keep the guys that were there before. So it's tough. Like that's just kind of where they're at on defense. They just don't have that same level of talent, and they're literally the highest out of any Power 4 team in yards after contact per rush, right? I think it's like 3.7 yards after contact per rush. It's the highest out of any Power 4 team. That's a horrible thing to have when you're going to play Jeremiyah Love and Jadarian Price. And if you watch the games, like, specifically if you watch like the Virginia and the Virginia Tech games, those guys like ran it on them. They hit them deep too, but they just couldn't get those guys on the ground. And I promise you, those backs are not even close to Notre Dame's backs. And those teams also don't have the receivers and the skill talent or a quarterback as good as CJ Carr. So, or an offensive line as good as Notre Dame. So they just need a ton of stuff to go right for them on defense to kind of make it a game, I think. And that's why I just think it will be, it's not going to quite look, I think, the same way that it looked. Like it's not going to be every drive like it was against like Arkansas or Purdue. Like I don't think it's going to be quite that. It's not going to be far off. Like
you would predict it. You would never really predict that though. Like it could.
It could. You're right.
If they're playing well, it could. I mean, that's
I bet on that more than them getting a lot of stops. Put it that way.
Right, because they have so many different kind of ways to move the ball, especially because, and people are. Do I sound different? My mic is plugged into it should be my microphone. So let me know if it sounds different to you, Jamie. But I don't know.
There was something,
I just
there's
checked
some
it.
static in the background for a minute, but I just thought it was just like there was something
Oh, okay.
behind you,
Oh,
whatever.
okay.
But it's good. You sound perfect.
CFB Hurt says I sound normal. The thing is that they can throw over the top. This offense is very difficult. It is truly difficult, like conceptually. They can throw over the top. They can throw middle range, and then they can run. They can run. But they have the two of the best backs in the country. Like it's truly very hard. Like they are. I was looking at some of their stuff today that Bud Davis was putting out. That is really really good stuff. Obviously, we like them throwing to Pauling. We like them throwing to Faison, right? That's throwing to Faison is probably the most efficient thing that they do, right? You obviously can hit fields deep and over the top and on jump balls and things like that. You can run for power. They're averaging over 1 yard, like 1 point per every time they throw the ball to the tight ends. So the APA per play is over 1, right? Which is just kind of it's not. It's kind of one of those things like, oh, this guy shoots, 59% from 3. Why doesn't he shoot from 3 all the time? It's like, well, because the types of shots that they are getting lends itself to like really good opportunities. It's kind of like when they throw to the tight end, man, it's there, and they're taking advantage of that. The point is that there's nothing that a defense can really key on that is going to be like, oh, we take this away and we're good. Like, no, you really can't. And here's the other thing. Remember in 2017 when they had that great rushing attack? The thing about that rushing attack that I don't think exists today is that rushing attack was all about spreading teams out and getting a numbers advantage and getting them into a defense that was very advantageous to, okay, we want to run this type of play. If we gash it, we are going for 70.
Yeah.
Right. This running game isn't like that. Like, what happened?
It froze for me.
Oh, okay. Here I go. I'm back. It was 11 personnel standard run play. It goes for 50 yards and a touchdown. That's a problem for a defense where it's like they're not getting us into they're not out scheming us and getting us in a spot where it's like we can't deal with this. It's they just ran at us and hit us for an explosive. And that's the difference between like this running game and other running games. And it's like the thing I said before. They can just run it in from 20 yards out. It makes it very, very difficult. You have to be Miami when you just have these defensive ends and these interior guys that are just going to beat up Notre Dame's offensive line. And even then, Notre Dame scores 24 points in the first game with the new quarterback. It's a very difficult offense to stop.
Yeah, and I think one of the things too that they still have those options of like, hey, if they get you into a situation where you have a light box and they do check to a run, they can kill you. Like, so there's that kind of thing too, where and I mentioned it in Six Thoughts too. I mean, shout out to Bud Davis for putting that kind of stuff up. Just love that he shares that kind of stuff for games. But basically Notre Dame faced a heavier box, 48% of snaps, right? So 7+ defenders, which is 11% more than anyone else. That means that whenever they get that look, they're always going to have a chance to, if they want to, we can pick a matchup and just throw it, chuck it deep if we want to. They're always going to have situations where they can go to empty and just be like, okay, Jeremiyah loves on a linebacker, and we're going to do that. Like these things are going to be there for them. And CJ Carr is not going to go 1 for 7 on deep balls every game, so that just makes it so difficult. It changes the dynamic of everything, right? So I don't know. In order to stop Notre Dame, I think it's like the only thing like really, if you think about like what Miami, it was like, they just whooped them up front.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically the ends, whoop the tackles. And which they've been doing every tackle that they've played.
Yeah.
Miami's played the game this year. But that's a lot to ask from your defense for that to happen. And I don't know if the defenses have that. So if they don't have that, I don't think any team that they're playing the rest of the year has that. So if they don't have that, it's tough to stop Notre Dame's offense.
I was just looking. Miami's Bain and Messidor have a combined 53 total pressures.
Pretty good.
That'll work for all those who are out there. That's my analysis. 53 total pressures from them. That is insane. From two players. Jamie, the clip I put on Twitter, and I found this because of a question that I do for the breakdowns. Jamin NJ, I think it is who it is. I shouted him out when I made the breakdown, but he's got a feel for the sport, and I appreciate it. And so he asked really good questions. And the check where they got Jeremiyah Love on an angle route,
yeah,
and I think Raridan just missed the check, and I think CJ Carr was sending everyone on a vertical, and he was going to get. I mean, if Raridan goes vertical and takes the linebacker with him, like, it's going to be a touchdown. But the for him to check into it, because Boise State showed the pressure, but they didn't really they didn't totally.
But it wasn't obvious.
Like it wasn't obvious. Like they showed
that
it,
is that is true. Film head, like you saw this and you talked about it with you talked about it with Denbrock, you talked about it with Gino, and you had that, and you're like, okay, this looks.
If we see this, we're running verts. Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to overreact. I don't want to overreact. That's kind of Peyton Manning kind of stuff. Yeah. And it's definitely not stuff you see from a guy who's in his fifth game. It doesn't happen that often. Usually it's like you graduate to that in your fifth year, maybe.
Yeah.
And some guys never do. So even that kind of stuff, or like checking into guess what? I mean, I just know it right now. It's, fourth down. They're showing here, but it's like, yeah, they're coming. Like we see this, we're getting that look. Brings in Raridan, moves Love over.
Yeah.
Notre Dame just absolutely blocks it perfect.
And he's standing there by himself. And
he's standing there.
And they're in zero blitz.
Yes. He's could have done what he could have, done a pirouette before he threw the ball and did whatever he wanted. And he just missed the throw. But but that check right there was just oh my gosh. It just, when you're doing that kind of thing, and I understand they say they don't want him to because you don't want him to overthink it and you don't want him to do stuff. But man, it is it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing because when you don't have to do it, and maybe some of it is Denbrock in his ear with some of it, because you get that option too, right?
Yeah.
You get that. And there could be some of it, but still, you just don't see that from a lot of guys all over the place. You don't see that from, I haven't seen it from a quarterback. Carson Beck, you see some of that, some of that in the first week.
Yeah. But
I haven't seen from any other quarterback this year that Notre Dame has played.
Yeah. I mean, fifth year guy, right? Where Carson Beck's doing it. There's so many examples of it. And, it's funny when there was the chatter coming out of camp where it was a large portion of the team was thinking it was going to be Minchie, who was the quarterback. And I heard from a few people, it's who's really happy about it actually is the wide receivers. And you see why, man. You see why. This is one of those deals where if I'm a wide out, and it's and again, it kind of doesn't matter because the only people who can truly benefit from CJ Carr are either on campus or are committed to Notre Dame currently. So that, like, after next year, he's going to go on to the NFL, right? He's not going to be around for 3 more years. But like, that's the type of thing where you see a guy like him and you think, hey, like I need to get into that offense specifically. That's why people are talking about Greathouse leaving. It's like, sure, man, if you want, but would you leave this? I wouldn't. Like, I wouldn't be trying to leave this quarterback because he's the goods. He really is.
It's the first time in forever that they've been in a position where I think if the receivers will watch the offense, and there's a lot of reasons why receivers wouldn't choose Notre Dame for different various reasons, and that's been the case over the years. But right now, what they're showing on the field is not one of them. Like that, what you would want to play in this offense. And I mean, I would say too, like, and maybe it's sacrilege because I know a lot of people love Jimmy Clausen, but like Jimmy Clausen it's not even comparable because it's just a different time. And then also too, his 2 guys were just so much better. 3 guys really, because throwing Rudolph with like Tate and Floyd, they were so much better than any of the guys. Like, a lot of guys could have had success, and maybe not the same success, but like, I think Carr, it's early. I think he has a chance to be like a really good pro for a long time. A long, long time.
Just to be clear. He is better than Clausen is already. Okay. Just as a sophomore, right? Because they were both soft. Clausen played as a freshman, and then in 2008, that was his first season. Clausen was a 61% passer, 25 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. Okay, not fair. Okay, and so a very good offense for quarterback, and it just the mobility of Carr is different, right? The mobility of CJ Carr is different, and he's just he's better in the pocket too, right? Like there's an awareness to him that is better. He's just trending to be a better player, right? And Jimmy Clausen's great, right? It's not. I'm not trying to. I'm just saying, like, he's a good player, and it's hard to like you said, you don't want to go overboard, but the things that you see are really, really trending. I mean, the way that Kyle Hamilton was playing as a freshman, like, I was over the moon with him, and it's like the quarterback version of that. Just like he does so many little things that are like, man, that's elite. Like, it's just elite the way that he changes plays already. So anyway, all right, let's do predictions.
I was on a NC State podcast yesterday, and I said 42-24 for Notre Dame, and I think I'll stick with that. Although for some reason I think it's probably going to be less for NC State. Just not that I don't think they'll get some big plays, but I just kind of think that Notre Dame might build up enough of a lead that they'll kind of get out of their offense a little bit and be discombobulated.
Yeah. 45-21 is what I'm going to go with there. Which is, it's kind of what they've been. I think they're going to do numbers. I think they're going to kind of, like, all the inefficiencies that popped up last week are going to be eliminated this week. So I think it's going to be Notre Dame 45-21. And I think everyone's going to have a good time. And we'll see going into USC week. What I will say is, like, NC State has the ability to, if there are vulnerabilities that remain on Notre Dame's defense in the secondary, that they could do numbers. I would not be surprised if there was a point, like if they had 21 points at halftime, for example. That would not shock me. I don't expect it because I do think Notre Dame has figured it out, but they are good enough to where if Notre Dame does have underlying issues, they will exploit them because I do think they're good enough on offense to do that. I just don't think it will, right? We haven't seen it. And usually when a problem solved with Marcus Freeman, then it's solved. So that's where I'm at. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If you like what you heard, hit that like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, show whatever it is. We are going live. We'll be back after the game on Saturday for the post-game show. And then we'll have to see on my morning after recap because my daughter is playing early in the morning on Sunday. And I've missed a lot of her games, and I don't want to miss any more. So I'll come up with a time to do the day after show. But stay tuned on that. So have a good rest of your day. Have a good weekend, everyone. We'll talk to you on Saturday. Keep hitting and hustling.